Donald Trump.
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 Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump.
Trump. Trump.
Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is?
These people are sick. They mentioned my name, I think, 271 times. They mentioned the economy like 12 times. They mentioned the border, maybe none. They don't talk about the border. Our great border czar doesn't talk about the border. But they mentioned me more than any other category. I'm now a category. They had me down today as a category. That's all they talk about. Trump. We've driven them crazy. They have Trump derangement syndrome.
I watched the DNC and thought for a second that this was the RNC. Either that or Donald Trump suddenly became a Democrat again. The fixation on criticizing Donald Trump and avoiding real-world policies is pretty evident here. Meanwhile, Donald Trump on his end continues to get tough questions. Questions that would never be asked to someone like Vice President Kamala Harris or even President Joe Biden.
Watch this incredible response from Trump when he was asked about it by the media.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Campaign is backing you from being in his town because they say there are white supremacists here a month ago. They're Democrats.
Who was here in 2021? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
That's one of the best we've seen. A body slam to the race baiters up to their usual games. A style of politics that we can thank Barack Obama for, the OG Democrat race baiter.
That man is sharp as a tack. It took him seconds to come up with the perfect response, and even those behind him laughed because they knew it was a mic drop moment. And guys, before we get started, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. Thanks so much for making sure you're still subscribed to the channel, and thank you so much for sharing these videos on Facebook and Twitter. This has been the strategy for the Democrats the entire race. They can criticize Donald Trump for pretty much everything he does, but the moment anybody from the Democratic Party does it too, then they just go ahead and let it pass. This has been the treatment for Donald Trump for so long, not to mention that they can lie about him as many times as they want, with little to no response from mainstream media.
He tried to cut Medicare every year he was president.
Lies.
As long as I'm president, no one will lay a hand on your Medicare. Your Medicare is going to be safe and it's going to be solid.
If Donald Trump wins in November, he intends
To kick you out of the White House.
think about that. To take us back to a time when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions.
Why the hell would President Trump do that? Tell me. That makes no sense. You guys are a bunch of... Trump signed the very first executive order in American history.
Includes the first ever executive order to affirm it is the official policy of the United States government to protect patients with pre-existing conditions. So we're making that official. We're putting it down in a stamp. Isn't it a big one?
Why the hell would President Trump undo that? And the other day, on that, he's gonna tax your mama, tax your daddy.
You know, I think that if you want to know who someone cares about, look who they fight for.
And that is the one thing I agree with you on. Trump puts his money where his mouth is.
But of course, Harris won't be fact-checked like Donald Trump. It's common knowledge at this point that this is something that's almost exclusively done against the former president. Now, speaking of former presidents, President Joe Biden, he went on a tirade against Donald Trump during the DNC. And I know that he's still technically the president at this point, but it's pretty obvious that he's not pulling the strings at all here. Here's his attack on Trump and his visit to Charlottesville.
I ran for president in 2020 because of what I saw in Charlottesville in August of 2017. Extremists coming out of the woods, carrying torches, their veins bulging from their necks, carrying Nazi swastikas, and chanting the same exact anti-Semitic bile that was heard in Germany in the early 30s. Neo-Nazis, white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, so emboldened by a president then in the White House that they saw as an ally. They didn't even bother to wear their hoods. Hate was on the march in America. Old ghosts and new garments, stirring up the oldest divisions, stoking the oldest fears, giving oxygen to the oldest forces that they long sought to tear apart America.
Within the speech, the president also said that Donald Trump commented on his situation and said that there are very fine people on both sides. Now, this caused an uproar in the DNC with boos just ringing around the place. And as it should, because it's a very controversial and offensive thing to say. The problem is that Trump never said it. But can you believe that this is what he said next after literally lying to the American people?
I know and believe in an America where honesty, dignity, decency still matter. An America where everyone has a fair shot and hate has no safe harbor.
Now, you gotta hand it to him. He said this all without slurring his words for once. But that doesn't take away the fact that he lied. In fact, his lie was fact-checked by a left-leaning website called Snopes. This was revealed by Trump campaign National Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt on Fox News. But this wasn't after the DNC. Biden has used his attack multiple times against Trump, and he has been fact-checked for lying multiple times. The statement came out before the president was ousted from the 2024 presidential race, with Leavitt saying that this was another hoax perpetuated by the corrupt Democrats and their mouthpieces in the fake news media, just like the Hunter Biden laptop, the Russian collusion scandal, and so many others, all in an attempt to smear President Trump. Snopes confirmed that Trump said the phrase, very fine people on both sides. However, he noted that he was not talking about neo-Nazis and white supremacists. Trump went on to say that these people should be condemned totally. And if we're talking about affiliations with these groups, it's Biden that's actually eulogized one former member of the KKK. Now, CNN has been criticized as of late for being very left-leaning. And it seems as if they're now trying to convince us that they're leaning towards being in the middle by fact-checking President Biden's DNC speech.
Let's start with the president. What did you make of it?
There were certainly some false or misleading claims there, especially on the subject of the economy. I want you to listen to something he said on the subject of U.S. imports and exports.
We used to import products and export jobs. Now we export American products and create American jobs. Right here in America, where jobs belong.
This claim is misleading, Jake. U.S. exports of goods have increased under President Biden. So far, so good with that claim. But contrary to the other part of that claim, we are still importing a whole lot of stuff, too. What he didn't mention is that U.S. imports have increased during his presidency. Increased, not decreased. In fact, increased by more than exports have increased. So, therefore, the trade deficit in goods has increased under President Biden, not declined, as this claim suggested. It was over $1 trillion in each of his first 3 years in office. It had never hit that level before.
Biden was also fact-checked on his talk about the economy and taxes. And while it's a start, CNN failed yet again to mention his comments against Donald Trump, where he basically said that the former president was a white supremacist. Because that in and of itself is a very huge allegation, one that Biden doesn't seem to be worried about. On that note, many people believe Vice President Kamala Harris has preparation for every time that she has to face the press. One that involves drinking, as there are those who believe that she comes to these events intoxicated. Now, I covered this in a previous video where we get down to the truth on the matter. Y'all are definitely going to want to check that video out right after this one. But as always, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for hitting the like button, sharing this video, and making sure you're still subscribed. I'll see you guys on the next one.